Right, I think I've seen 2 or 3 requests for this video now, and given the success of our video on the first 7 teams relegated from the Premier League, I decided it would be a worthwhile one to take on. So our thanks to those of you who suggested it, and my apologies that I don't have your names and or usernames to hand to properly acknowledge you. The 1992-93 season was the first campaign following the First Division being rebranded as the Football League, along with a whole host of changes that would leave an indelible mark on the game of football in England and beyond, so that is the season we're focused on here. We're going to go through the teams in the order of where they finished back in the 92-93 campaign, as well as where they are now, since we figured that would be quite interesting too. Okay, here are the original 22 members of the Premier League. Where are they now? Manchester United, Premier League. It's no secret that Manchester United, under the masterful watch of Sir Alex Ferguson, absolutely dominated the Premier League era following a lengthy barren spell at Old Trafford. That title in 1993 was the club's first for 26 years, going all the way back to United's holy trinity of Best, Charlton and Law in 1967. Ferguson went on to win 13 Premier League titles in the first 20 seasons following the league's rebranding, establishing himself as arguably the greatest manager to have ever lived. In the 6 years since Sir Alex retired, United have regressed majorly though. Managers have been and gone, poor business has been done in the transfer market, and the club don't look like competing for major trophies anytime soon. Aston Villa, Championship. Aston Villa may well soon be a Premier League club if they can overcome Derby County in the Championship playoff final. By the time of this recording, they are still in the Championship. Cast your minds back to 1992-93, if you're alive then, and at least half our viewers won't have been, and Villa finished second to Manchester United in the first ever Premier League season. Villa had the likes of Paul McGrath, Dean Saunders and Dwight York at their disposal back then, and they were a really decent side. Norwich City, Premier League. From a team that could win promotion to the Premier League this season to one that already has, Norwich City finished in 3rd place in the first Premier League season. Norwich have been one of the pre-season favourites for relegation, and although they recorded their highest ever league finish, it could so nearly have been even better. The Canaries led the division by 8 points before Christmas, and only a late wobble allowed Aston Villa and Manchester United to steal in ahead of them. Blackburn Rovers, Championship. Following their takeover by local millionaire Jack Walker in January 1991, Blackburn Rovers had already started spending big by the time of the 1992-93 season. Their side boasted the likes of Kevin Moran, Graham Lasso and Alan Shearer, and they finished 4th in the first ever Premier League season. 2 seasons later, they won the Premier League title, but they were relegated in 1999. They returned to the top flight in 2001, but went back down again in 2013. They finished 15th in the Championship this season. Queen's Park Rangers, Championship. In a world where we have become so accustomed to first of that top 4 of Manchester United, Chelsea, Arsenal and Liverpool, and now that rock solid top 6 of those 4 plus Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur, the variance of teams in the Premier League's top 5 27 years ago may look rather alien. QPR finished 5th in 1992-93, and they finished just a few places above the relegation zone in the Championship this season. Liverpool, Premier League. If you'd have told Liverpool fans after they finished 6th in 1993 that over a quarter of a century on they still wouldn't have won the Premier League title, they'd probably have been within their right to doubt you. Absolute titans of the English game, Liverpool are of course still in the Premier League, and probably have their best squad right now in over 30 years, but getting their hands on the elusive Premier League trophy remains a struggle. Sheffield Wednesday, the Championship. Having finished 3rd in the final First Division season, Sheffield Wednesday dropped to 7th in the debut Premier League campaign. They take that now as they are soon to begin their 20th season outside of the top flight. The Owls finished 12th in the Championship last season, but there were reasons to be positive under Steve Bruce's tenure in the second half of the campaign. Tottenham Hotspur, the Premier League. It might not seem like it now, but 8th place was considered very good going for Tottenham back in the 1992-93 campaign, given that they had finished 15th the previous season and lost Gary Lineker that summer. Fast forward more than 25 years on, and Spurs are now a fairly established top 4 side. Mauricio Pochettino has worked miracles at White Hart Lane without spending the earth, and Tottenham have a Champions League final to look forward to this season. Manchester City, Premier League. Unlike Tottenham, 9th was a bit of a drop-off in 92-93 for Man City, who had finished 5th in each of the previous 2 campaigns. Things were soon to get a whole lot worse though, as the club were relegated in 1996, and relegated yet again down into the 3rd tier in 1998. Back-to-back promotions followed, but the club's fortunes really turned around following Sheikh Mansour's takeover in 2008. Manchester City are now the dominant force in the English game and just won back-to-back Premier League titles, amassing an incredible 198 points in the process. Arsenal, the Premier League. 5 years before the arrival of Arsene Wenger and an appointment which would alter the course of English football forever, Arsenal finished down in 10th place back in 1992-93. Arsenal's fortunes turned around the turn of the millennium, culminating in a remarkable invincible season in 2003-04. That team was fairly rapidly disbanded though. Wenger continued to work wonders, but no longer at the highest level. The Frenchman left the club last summer and they finished 5th in Unai Emery's first season in charge. Chelsea, the Premier League. 4 of the Premier League's current top 6 feature in this list in quick succession, but they finished in mid-table back in 1992-93. Chelsea became a regular top 6 side in 1996-97, but like Man City, their fortunes were really greatly improved by the arrival of a very wealthy new owner in 2003. Roman Abramovich has pumped over £1 billion into the Blues since then, and they have unsurprisingly become one of the most successful clubs in the land. Chelsea just finished 3rd in the Premier League in Maurizio Sarri's first season in charge. Wimbledon, extinct. It's some fall from grace from the likes of Tottenham, Arsenal and Chelsea to Wimbledon, who finished 12th in the 1992-93 Premier League season. Wimbledon went on to finish as high as 6th in the Premier League era, but they were relegated in 2000, and financial troubles followed. One could argue Wimbledon are now MK Dons, who just won promotion from League 2, or AFC Wimbledon, who are also a League 1 side. However, MK Dons renounced any claim of Wimbledon's history in 2007, and since AFC Wimbledon are a Phoenix club founded in 2002 and a separate entity to the original Wimbledon, saying the original Wimbledon no longer exists is the only truly accurate description. Everton, the Premier League. Having been such a force in the mid-1980s, Everton were no longer quite so dominant when the Premier League came in. The club have finished in the top 4 once in the Premier League era, and although they showed signs of being a really talented side in the making under Marco Silva this season, cracking that top 6 will prove tough for any outsiders. Sheffield United, the Premier League. Promoted from the Championship as runners-up to Norwich City this season, the 2019-20 campaign will be Sheffield United's first back in the big time since 2007. Chris Wilder has done an incredible job at Bramall Lane, but getting that team to win points and score goals regularly in the Premier League without a lot of help in the transfer market will prove to be tough. My early prediction will be a similar campaign to Cardiff this season, a lot of huffing, puffing and punching above their weight, but potentially just not quite enough quality. Coventry City, League 1. Coventry City spent 34 years in the top flight of English football between 1967 and 2001, but they have never returned since that relegation almost 2 decades ago. Indeed, the Sky Blues will soon enter their 8th season outside even the 2nd tier, having only one promotion from League 2 in 2018. Coventry have had to battle a really toxic regime under Sisu, like a number of clubs in English football recently, and one hopes Coventry fans can soon get their club back and run properly. Ipswich Town, League 1. Ipswich Town had spent 17 consecutive seasons in the Championship between 2002 and 2019, the most of any club in the division, prior to their relegation into League 1 last season. It was a miserable season for the Tractor Boys, who finished dead last and had to watch their bitter rivals Norwich win promotion in the same season. Leeds United, the Championship. Having won the First Division title the previous season, Leeds United dropped all the way down into 17th in 1992-93. That was child's play in comparison to what was to come though, as Leeds were relegated from the Premier League in 2004 and have never returned to the top flight, even spending a number of seasons in League 1. They came close to changing that under Marcelo Bielsa this season, but having spent the vast majority of the campaign in the top 2 places, they faltered at the final hurdle, losing second place to Sheffield United and surrendering a 2-goal lead against Derby County in the playoff semi-finals. Southampton, the Premier League. Having lost Alan Shearer to Blackburn Rovers, Southampton only narrowly avoided relegation in the very first Premier League season, finishing 1 point above the relegation zone. They managed to retain their Premier League status up until 2005 before suffering 2 relegations in 4 years down to League One. Nigel Adkins oversaw a new era of talented young players at Southampton though, winning back-to-back promotions before Maurizio Pochettino and Ronald Koeman gave the Saints fans plenty to shout about back in the Premier League. Selling all their best players eventually caught up with the South Coast side, but they still stayed up despite 1 or 2 scares last season. Oldham Athletic, League 2. The lowliest place side still in existence from the 1992-93 Premier League season, Oldham Athletic finished 12th in League 2 last season. The Latics stayed up by the skin of their teeth back in 1993, level on points but with a goal difference that was superior by 2, keeping their heads above the water. They were relegated the following season though, relegated once again in 1997 and yet again in 2018, meaning the club have gone almost 30 years without tasting promotion and currently look a mid-table side in League 2. Crystal Palace, the Premier League. Subscribers who watched our video on the first 7 teams relegated from the Premier League will be familiar with the fates of the next 3 clubs, starting with Crystal Palace. The Eagles were relegated in 1993, promoted in 1994, relegated again in 1995, promoted again in 1997, and relegated once more in 1998. It would be fair to say Palace were a yo-yo club back in the 1990s then, but they just finished their 6th consecutive season in the top flight under Roy Hodgson. Middlesbrough, the Championship. Although they were relegated from the Premier League in 1993 and 1997, Middlesbrough bounced back on both occasions, and they were regular fixtures in the top flight up until 2009. Borough have spent just 1 season back in the Premier League since then, and it was a pretty tepid one. Promotion had been the aim this season under Tony Pulis, but the Welshman was sacked after a poor end to the campaign. At the time of this recording, Borough are yet to announce his replacement. Nottingham Forest, the Championship. The final inclusion in this list, having finished at the bottom of the Premier League table in the 1992-93 season, that relegation was a tough one for Forest fans and the departing Brian Clough. It was a sad end to a wonderful managerial career, and Forest haven't spent long in the Premier League since then. 2 promotions were met with swift relegations, and the Midlanders haven't played in the Premier League this millennium. So that's it for our Not Actually a 7. Thanks for watching, give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe to HITC Sevens. You can also follow us on Twitter at HITC Sevens.